What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, All the Dialogue. I got a special guest on the line. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the people.
Man, my name is DJ King Assassin, you know what I mean? Producer, rap artist, been doing it for a long time. Born 1971, January 15th. So if you do the math, I've been doing this for 20 years plus, you know what I mean? From California, both sides, you know what I mean? Parents raised in Southern California and, basically raised in the Bay, you know what I mean? So it's kind of both sides because my parents were born in Southern California, so I got the taste of that life and got the taste of the Bay Area life, which everybody knows, there's Northern California and Southern California. Those are two different worlds. The Bay has its own organic flow, and so does LA. So I got the best of both sides, you know what I mean, when it came to West Coast music. But I've been producing music for a long time, you know what I mean, produced cats like Wyclef, Ice-T, Cocaine, worked with Roger from Zap. And of course, everybody knows, the late, great Tupac Shakur, rest in peace, my brother right there. So, and I'm still doing it, still producing records, still doing my thing, almighty. You know how it goes, and it's just an honor just to be on your show. You know what I mean? You're a cat that brings legendary articles, man, and that you put together. So hats off to you as well for having me on here.
Yes, indeed, my man. So I want to start from the beginning. Before you worked on Dear Mama with Tupac, did you know Tupac prior to that?
Yes, most def from the Bay Area. Me and Pac, we were the type of people that were always out everywhere. And if you were in the Bay Area, in 92, 93, and 94, especially, 92, you ran into Pac, man. If you were, in Oakland, San Francisco, or San Jose, you were going to see Tupac because everywhere I was, he was. So we always ran into each other. And it wasn't until like 93, 94 that we started running into each other in LA too, because we were both back and forth at the same time. Our roots range from the same, realm, which is Digital Underground. I'm an offset, cat that been working with Shock G for a long time. So, Shock G is like my mentor. He's the one that actually taught me how to do keys and get the keys in the right order, with chords and stuff like that. So I learned from Shock G from Digital Underground many, many moons ago. And of course, everybody knows Tupac used to be in Digital Underground. So it was all family, straight from the beginning.
So how did Dear Mama come about?
Dear Mama came about because Tupac loved his mom so much, man. Tupac had love for his mom so much, no matter what he went through in life with Afeni, there was always that bond between them. You know what I mean? He traveled with her from place to place. Of course, everybody knows about the Black Panther movement and the movement that was going on. Pac really, soaked up all that energy, to write a lot of his songs. And Dear Mama was just something that he was paying tribute to her. And I'll never forget, he even told me, he said, this song right here is going to make everybody cry. And sure enough, upon putting the whole song together and hearing how it came out, in the end, it brought tears to my eyes too, because it was real the sensitivity in it was just so strong. What he talked about, you can tell that Tupac was pouring out his heart in that song. You can tell it was, it was real. And I think that's why, with Tupac, a lot of his songs, not just Dear Mama, even Brenda's Got a Baby, it always came from his heart. And you can tell it was real life situations, what he went through with his mom. And he wasn't afraid to say that. I think that's why that song has so much feeling to it, that what he's saying is the truth, that it came from his heart. And when you can paint that picture of what you've been through with your mom and put it on record like how he did it, like nobody else did it, man, it's very powerful song to this day. And that's why I ended up in the Library of Congress and under the copyrights of being one of the, most influential songs in hip-hop history.
How was it working in the studio with Tupac when Tupac was working on Dear Mama?
Fast. To sum everything up that I could without, of course I could be here for 2 hours talking about it, but to sum everything up, Almighty, he did it like no other. When he had a concept down, he would write it down. It'd probably take him maybe 15 to 20 minutes to write it down on paper. And after he wrote it down, he went in the studio behind that mic. He would finish it in like 5 minutes. A lot of people don't understand. And the reason why it does boil down to 15, 20 minutes, because like an overall whole, it'd be like within 20 to 30 minutes working on one song with Tupac. People say 15 minutes and stuff like that, but Pac took the time to write stuff down. I remember he was always writing it on them long yellow sheets of paper, the long yellow binder, type of paper, with the blue lines. He always had one of those with him when I was around him, because I was around him with the whole Me Against the World album. I was basically there. We recorded Dear Mama in 2 different studios. We recorded in Blue Palm Studio in Los Angeles with Norman Whitfield, and Tony Pizarro did all the engineering there, along with some other engineers from Norman's crew from Norman Whitfield. Rest in peace, he owned the studio, which was called Blue Palm in Los Angeles, California. Then the final touches were done at Echo Sound on Los Feliz Boulevard in Los Angeles. So that song was recorded in 2 different places, as far as recording studios. But as far as working with Tupac, it was like no other, because he was fast in what he did, and he came from the heart with everything he did. And he always had that enthusiasm with whatever he was doing. He got you into it because he believed in it so much. And I think that's one thing that we lose in today's music, man. We don't have, the Tupacs or the Biggies and stuff like that, because them guys, they spoke from the gut. They spoke from the heart. And, of course, there's other artists, too, that do the same thing. But with Tupac, he was ahead of his time, Almighty. He was ahead of his time, because even at that time, a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, even with Dear Mama, a lot of people didn't understand what he was saying, because he had that slang, too. Like the slang, put money in your mailbox, you know what I mean? Like, that's a slang that a lot of people don't understand, that, put money in your mailbox, because mail means money. You know what I mean? They think just because he says mailbox and stuff like that, like it's a mailbox in the street. But, to the street cats from Cali, everybody knows that mail means money. So, that whole song right there was just so strong, and nobody ever touched on, a song about your mom before. So, to hear that and to have the amount of, feeling, the amount of feeling is incredible, because that song, like no other, is felt like no other to this day and time.
If I'm not mistaken, YoYo was supposed to be on Dear Mama, right?
Man, that's the key point right there. I'm glad you brought that up, Almighty, because a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that. You know that because you've done your history, and Tupac's history, and the original version of Dear Mama had YoYo on the hook, and she was saying, "What be a damn thing without a woman," which is taken from the Bonnie and Clyde thing from YoYo. And the way we put that in there was so incredible that it sounded like YoYo was actually on the song, but it was a sample from her. And Richard Pryor was on the hook too. He was like, "What'd you say about my mama, man?" You know what I mean? So there was scratching that we had did and put that alongside with YoYo saying that part.
Be a damn thing without a woman.
What you say about my mother, man? You all appreciate it.
Be a damn thing without a woman.
What you say about my mother, man?
When I was young, me and my mama had beef, 17 years old, kicked out on the streets. So back at the time, I never thought I'd see her face. Ain't a woman alive that could take my mama's place.
Back in them days, in the early 90s, you really had to have scratching and samples of other people's songs in your record. It just made sense. That's like what actually made the record. That was like the hook right there. And of course, everybody knows now that that's not the hook. That ain't the original one that people say is the original one. They think the original one is, with the singing part that you hear now. But that's not the truth. The truth is the original Dear Mama is the one that we had constructed, and with YoYo on the hook and Richard Pryor scratches. Mm-hmm.
So why didn't YoYo end up on Dear Mama?
Tupac had came in the studio the next day after we had basically put everything together. We were listening on a cassette tape. I'll never forget. This was an Echo Sound. And he said, guess what? I said, what? I said, you don't like the scratch? We could take it out, man. Don't even trip, man. You know what I mean? I said, so, man, it's not even that. Not even that. We can't even use that part. We can't use that part. Like, what you mean we can't use the part? What you talking about? What part? He said, we can't use the yo-yo part. I said, why? Why? What's up? He said, man, Pat Charnay went clear the sample. Me, I was up on game back then. I knew who Pat Charnay was because, you know, I was an Ice Cube fan. You know what I mean? So and a Yo-Yo fan. You know what I mean? So I knew that she managed them, and I think she even managed like the Lynch Mob too for a minute. So I knew that was, you know, Ice Cube's call right there, because she knows hip hop, but she can't be like the shot caller of saying, hey, you can't use it. Everything has to be approved by Ice Cube at the end of the day, you know, because that's his manager. So Tupac told me the news, and I was like, wow. At that time, me and Tupac felt like that was the record, like it was over with. Like, this ain't even going to feel the right no more. This ain't, it's like, we just thought that whole record went down the drain at that point. You know, and that's the honest truth. That's how we both felt. And, yeah, so we were just kind of like in awe, like, why? Why would this happen? And, of course, you know, it never made the record.
Do you think Ice Cube was jealous of Tupac?
Of course. I mean, I've went over this situation over and over in my head. And, of course, this is just what I think. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that agree with me on this. You know, with rap, there's egos that happen. You know, egos happen. And, you know, Ice Cube had Yo-Yo signed to his label. You know what I mean? So, and plus the management as well. I think that just alone is a contract binding situation, that she can't have management and you know, same label at the same time. You know what I mean? So I knew that he was stopping that, because everyone knows, and if they don't know now, Tupac was dating Yo-Yo. So put it like this: if you're dating somebody and it's from a different label, a different rapper, so you already got an issue right there. Like, damn, he's over here dating Yo-Yo, and you know, he's on Interscope and I'm on Priority. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of like that egoism gets involved, and I think definitely Ice Cube was that's the only way that he could have stopped anything from happening with them two, was by not, you know, putting that out on record on the original Dear Mama. I talked with Yo-Yo years after that. We were on the Money B show, Going Way Back show. Some of y'all might have seen it. And I, you know, confronted Yo-Yo as far as, hey, Yo-Yo, did you know you were on this song? Did you know that Pat Charnay, you know, stop your piece from coming on Dear Mama? Tears came out of her eyes. She didn't even know. So she wasn't even aware that she was on the original Dear Mama till like probably 5 years ago, till I told her on the Money B show. And a lot of people ask me, they say, hey, was Tupac upset about that? Was he upset? What was his reaction of it? His reaction, I'll tell you, I've been around Tupac a whole lot when it came to different things that I had told him, or what he felt about, you know, the business. And, you know, Tupac he hardly would show emotions on things, even if they were, you know, against him or anything bad. But this time, Tupac was fierce. He was mad as fuck. He was mad, you know what I mean? And I seen it through, and he was mad. I never seen him mad like this, you know, unless somebody was, you know, like fighting with him or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, this was on the business tip. I never seen Pac get mad on the business tip. You know what I mean? And I seen him, he was mad about it. I mean, because Yo-Yo's his friend. He thought Ice Cube was his friend, you know what I mean? And after that, yeah, it went from, you know, I think Ice Cube kind of lost his his clout with Tupac at that point. I know he did with me because I was upset about that shit too. I was like, man, this is fucked up. How can you stop something like that? Like we have, you know, samples from different other people. You know, Scarface lets us use a sample. Spice One lets us use the samples. You know, it's all family. It's supposed to be all family, but he put a stop to the yo-yo part. We were fierce. We were mad because it's like doing all this work and then all of a sudden, you know, they say you can't do it, you can't use it. And it came from Ice Cube, his management. So a lot of people think that, you know, when Ice Cube was doing all the bow down stuff in West Side and throwing up the W and the West Side Connection and using that word West Side a lot, that's when Tupac wasn't feeling him. Now, Tupac wasn't feeling Ice Cube a long time ago. And don't get me wrong, Tupac was an Ice Cube fan. But like I said, man, when you do something like this, all that goes down the drain. You know what I mean? And we were all recording in the same studio anyways, and so we would always run into Ice Cube. I remember Ice Cube was at Echo Sound with Bob Morse cutting, you know, his tapes, you know, with razor blades and shit back in them days. So I thought we were all cool, but obviously not. And I can't wait till somebody someday brings this up to Ice Cube, and I want to hear what Ice Cube has to say about it. You know what I mean? But we haven't heard nothing from Ice Cube, you know, since then about this matter, because everybody kind of brushed this part under the rug, you know what I mean? Like, nobody, like, especially on his side, he don't talk about it, he won't tell you. But I bet you now, if time were to travel back and he had the choice to put it on there, him as a businessman would probably be like, hell yeah, we'll put that on there because that's one of the top selling songs of all America, of the whole world, Dear Mama. So that's how it is, and that's the truth, and that's the history, Dear Mama.